You can do your.
Send your kids outside. Send your wives to Target. You already know what time it is.
It's garage time.
That's right. Welcome to the first episode. Take 3.
Yeah. Take 3.
We've had a few issues.
All right. So over the past week, we've sent out TikToks telling you what we're doing on this podcast. We've come up with 4 different categories. First one being unsolicited advice. Second one is sports, as you all know. The third one is the garage time report. And the fourth one we're going to get to a little later in this episode. Kick it off with unsolicited advice, Kyle.
Unsolicited advice. You didn't ask, and neither did we. We're just going to tell you anyway. So, first off, we're 2 Sundays in, and I think we're all thinking the same thing. What the hell do you do on Sunday without football? Obviously, 2 Sundays in, we're making a podcast. We're so lost. Any ideas?
I mean, you try to find some hobbies, something new to do. Hang out with the wife and kids.
Yeah, spend some time with your loved ones. Find something you enjoy to do. Make a podcast. It's pretty easy, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe. We had some difficulties ourselves. I think we're spoiled with Sundays during football season. You wake up, you've got the London games, the Germany games. We're watching football at 9 a.m. Noon games come on. Afternoon games come on. It's Sunday Night Football with Carrie Underwood.
Carrie!
Just watching football all day long. Maybe you don't, but we do. And now, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't go.
We decided to come up with a new hobby of doing this podcast together. First it started out that we each wanted to do one, and then we knew that doing it together would just be twice the fun. So here we are kicking this off. So some unsolicited advice. Find a hobby to do on Sunday. One of our favorite hobbies is, mowing the yard.
Like everybody. And we're getting to that season pretty quick, while you can't go outside, while you are stuck inside during this cold weather, you can be getting your mower ready for that all-important mower season.
Whether it's changing the oil, sharpening the blades, just admiring the beauty of the mower that you might have. Mine is 3 years old and looks like it's been through a war. Haven't really taken care of it too much. Haven't even changed the oil in it. It's got the same oil that I bought it with.
My mower's approximately 10 years old, been using it for a while, and the most I've ever done to it is take the brush shield off so that it sprays shit everywhere. We've got children dodging rocks and grass and twigs and sticks and ducking for cover, but my yard looks good.
So the shield that you don't have, well, I don't have it either. So I tend to blow all my stuff over to my neighbor's yard.
Who needs safety? And actually, we both have corner lots, so it's the same neighbor that we screw over time after time.
Yes, same guy every time. Got one direction to go. Because you can't blow it in the street, but you blow it to your neighbor's yard.
So that's one thing to think about. You can change your oil, you can clean the deck, get your mower ready for that all-important season. Garage door opens, AC/DC starts playing, you lace up those New Balance, throw your jorts on. It's time to mow your yard.
It is time. Now, the best thing about this is you want to be the first guy to mow the yard in the neighborhood. You don't want to be the dad that's behind. Peer pressure is big when it comes to mowing your yard. If somebody else starts, you got to get right on that, get right behind them.
You want to be the guy that fires up that mower first, and everybody else is sitting in their living room going, shit.
Yes, exactly. Next comment is going to be commit to your word.
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more even tone, serious, but basically the idea is, if you say you're going to do something, do it. It's as straightforward as that, and this goes for everybody. I think, we were talking earlier, you live in a society that everybody's got this fake face, everybody wants to get on social media, everybody wants to be a keyboard warrior, and you kind of lose who your true self is. And your word, your honesty, your integrity is one thing that you can hold on to no matter what.
Exactly, Kyle. When you say you're going to do something, you need to do it, whether it's doing the project around the house for your wife or hanging out with the kids, the commitment you might make to your community or whatever it be. Just make sure you hold up your end of the bargain.
Yeah, if you say you're going to do it, just follow through with it, And to take that a step further, we were discussing, I think that there's 3 people that you really got to make sure you never Go back on your word. Number one is your significant other, whether that be your husband, your wife, whoever. If you tell them you're going to do something, you should stick to it. Number two would be your kids. They remember everything. You tell your little kid, next Saturday we're going to get up and we're going to go get donuts. Your alarm's going to go off. You're going to roll out of bed, and he's going to be sitting there next to you going, I want sprinkles. They don't forget. All right? Keep your word to your kids. The last person that you never want to go back on your word is yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, if you tell yourself that this is what I'm going to be, stick to it. Because if you're lying to yourself, who can you be honest with?
Now, fellas, this goes a long ways towards winning over your wife. You tell her you're going to do something, as long as you do it, even if it takes you 2 years to build a garage, you get it done, it's okay.
Yes, that is a very important point. If you tell them that you're going to remodel a kitchen, it can take 9 months. You're still keeping your word.
And that's all we got for unsolicited advice from two dumbasses. Moving on to the next one, we got sports. The other day on TikTok, we shout out a couple of local teams who have been continuing on their season into the postseason. And today we're going to get into something a little bit more professional. We have Justin Turner signing with the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, big news. 10 years ago would have been huge news.
Yes.
But hey, we got a 40-year-old Justin Turner on the Chicago Cubs.
The big thing about that is you got two Cubs fans here. That's why we're bringing up this pretty quick. 2016 was the best, But Justin Turner is going to be a good bridge player for Matt Shaw, who we have down in the minor league system. And I can't wait to see what kind of clubhouse morale he brings to Chicago. And hopefully another consistent bat in the lineup to provide everyday hits.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Justin Turner, we've had kind of a revolving door at third base ever since Chris Bryant left. And honestly, other than the rookie season, I was never really sold on Chris Bryant. Peaked and stopped very quickly.
His bat was always better anyway. Wasn't really great at third base.
And I think some of the infielders that we've had over the last couple of years, no offense, glad to see him go.
Yeah.
Not missing Nick Madrigal, not missing Mastrobani.
I don't know. I like David Bodie, though.
Bodie, yeah.
I thought he could hold down third base for a little bit. That didn't end up panning out for him. But I think Justin Turner is going to be a good fill-in for a year, maybe a little bit more, while Matt Shaw gets developed and up to the major leagues.
Yeah, and a good bat. He's not the power hitter that maybe he might have been before, but he's not chasing. He's putting the ball on the bat. He's making some singles. Small ball wins games. So
you mentioned before when we were chatting that small ball is kind of the way to win games. Everybody wants the home runs and the exciting plays, but with having Turner in the lineup, there's more hits coming, there's more consistency coming, so the small ball will be able to be played better by Chicago.
I think so. And, you were bringing up that Justin Turner would be a great resource to have for young players coming up. And that led us to something else that we want to talk about, because there's another free agent out there at the age of 35, still looking for a job. Maybe could be a resource for Michael Busch.
I didn't know you were looking for a job, Kyle.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not us. Now that the Yankees allow facial hair, we're both expecting our call-up any day.
Yeah. Can't wait. No, but we're talking about the number 44, the fan favorite,
Anthony Rizzo. So, still looking for a job. Obviously, Cubs legend, fan favorite, great bat, great clubhouse guy. He says he still wants to play ball. You would love to see him get a deal somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You really would. Even if it's a cheaper deal than what he's used to, I would like to think that he'd take a pay cut to come back home to Chicago and, rebuild what we had before. He was on the 2016 World Series team, and if we could get him back to kind of get us back to that, trending that direction, I think that's something that would be great for us.
Yeah, and I think with Rizzo, he's such a good guy for the community and kids especially. He's flirted with the idea of retirement right now. If he retires right now, his last play of his career will be kind of that non-play on Mookie Betts' hit to first base that let the Dodgers go on to the series.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Rizzo go out like that.
Yeah, and no player wants to have that be the end of their career either, So hopefully he's, decides to stay in it, and if he doesn't sign with Chicago, he goes somewhere good. But definitely somebody to keep an eye on as free agency continues on.
He'll find a job.
All right, so we're going to move on to way too early Super Bowl predictions.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 weeks from the last Super Bowl. I feel like we're in a good window to talk about the next one.
It's always a good time to talk about the next one. So out of the AFC, I've always been high on Josh Allen. Like, great athlete, great competitor. I really like what he brings to Buffalo. And, I mean, when you talk about an MVP like he got last year, he is the MVP. I mean, without Josh Allen, Buffalo has nothing. I mean, zero. There's nothing going on over there. You know, they had Diggs to start out the season. They traded him away, picked up Amari Cooper, and he was hurt and actually wasn't really relevant down the stretch, you know. And, you know, you got some young guys. You got Dalton Kincaid out there, James Cook. But when it comes down to it, you have Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I think we've both discussed, you know, we kind of like that quarterback that's got that dog in him where you know, he's got a good arm, he's smart with the football, but if you need those 2 yards, he's going to get it. He's going to lower his shoulder, he's going to run somebody over or jump over them, and he's going to get you those 2 yards. And I'm a big fan of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo's an easy choice, especially if they pick up a wide receiver.
I do too. You know, they got a lot of returning players, I believe. I haven't seen too much in who they're losing yet. But if they can get a wide receiver to go with Josh Allen, I think they're going to be pretty scary next year. No, I'm not saying that, you know, you want to light off any other team, but if I had to pick an AFC team right now, it would be the Buffalo Bills.
I think Buffalo's a good choice. I think you have to wonder about Kansas City coming back angry from their loss in the Super Bowl. Hopefully they don't, you know. We grew up watching the Patriots dynasty. I'm not ready to see another one just yet.
I mean, 6 or 7 years of always watching New England, and then they get a year off, and then they're back to it for 6 or 7 years. Yeah, I'm good. I watched that, and I watched it happen. You know, Tom Brady was the best that we've ever seen. Hopefully, you know, somebody might come along better one day, but it could be 20 years down the road for me right now. Like, I just want to see something different. But speaking of other AFC teams, I think, as you mentioned before, Cincinnati with Joe Burrow is probably going to come back pretty strong.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati storms back. They had a really, really strong offense, great team dynamic. You know, you've got several of their starters that are willing to take pay cuts to stick with the team. They've just got to fix that defense. I mean, you can have an offense that drops 30 points a game, but It doesn't matter when your defense is letting 40. Yep. So, Cincinnati, I look to come back next year.
Yeah, so moving on to an NFC pick for us. Obviously, you got a Bears fan and a Panthers fan. Try not to be biased here and just say the Bears are going to win it all next year.
Yeah, not next
year. Not next year, the year after.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite picks out of the NFC is obviously going to be Detroit. Even though they have lost, you know, 2/3 of their coaching staff to Chicago, I still think they have what it takes to get back to the playoffs and eventually to the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, and I think Detroit's a solid choice too, and they've got that window. You know, they are built to win right now, but I don't know how much longer that's going to go on. You kind of start to get that feeling of now or never with Detroit.
You really do. I mean, they've been making moves to trade for better players these last few years, and obviously losing Aiden Hutchinson this year when they did doesn't help out that defense at all. But I really think that, you know, that window is probably next year. You know, Goff's not getting any younger, and he's been very consistent for him. But, you know, the age that they have on some of their players, and probably the push for Dan Campbell to get a Super Bowl has to be winded down.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you talk about the NFC, you have to talk about Washington too. You know, what they did this year was amazing. They've got, you know, Jaden Daniels having a great year, Eckler and Brian Robinson in the backfield, and, you know, Ertz wanting to go play there. They've got a great team. I think what you wonder about is maybe the sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels. It hits so many quarterbacks.
And you never want a player to have a sophomore slump, but it seemed to hit somebody at one point. And Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal rookie season, probably one of the best ones we've had in a decade. And you know, he's got good weapons out there, as you discussed. But you know, I even think even with a minor slump, that defense is probably good enough to carry that offense a little bit too. The coaching staff's great, but the only thing is that's probably one of the toughest divisions in the NFC. That NFC East is stacked. I mean, you got Philadelphia, you know, Giants are probably going to rebound, and then of course Dallas always plays pretty tough with everybody. Whether they win or not is a different story, but you know, that's a very tough division with some very physical football in it.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think the other thing is Washington took a lot of the league by surprise last year. Nobody expected them to be as good as they were. And next year, that's not going to be the case. They're no longer the dark horse. They're seen as a competitor. So that makes a factor too. But I was thinking, my pick for the NFC, kind of a dark horse. We mentioned Buffalo, we mentioned Detroit. People talk about Baltimore. We talk about these offenses that scored a lot of points. But right there at number 4 in the league was actually Tampa Bay. And, if they can bring back, I don't know what their situation looks like as far as free agents, roster moves, but if they can bring back a lot of those players, Baker Mayfield is another one of those quarterbacks that's got that dog in him. He's going to fight for that extra yard. They find a way to win. They've got a solid coaching staff. And unlike Washington, no offense, they've got a pretty weak division that they're in.
Oh, yeah, they do. I mean, that NFC South is, it's pretty cake. Carolina's rebuilding. Who knows what they're going to bring? You got Atlanta, who signed Kirk Cousins to this big old contract that didn't work out for him. So now they're going with Michael Penix, and you got Atlanta, who now has a new coach, a couple coaches. So who knows what's going to happen there? So I agree with you. That's a weak division. If you get one at the right time, win it, and you get into the playoffs, and then you can't count out Baker Mayfield ever. I mean, that guy just keeps fighting. Of course, he's got Mr. 1000, Mike Evans on the side. That helps out. I mean, that guy just consistency is what you look for as a wide receiver every year in, year out. So I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, I would look at any of those teams to really make a deep playoff run next year, barring injury. Of course, Josh Allen goes down in week 2. You can't predict that. But
so you heard it here first. I thought we both agree on Buffalo, and then it's either going to be Detroit or it's going to be Tampa Bay. So look for that next year. If we're right, you heard it here first. All right, moving on to March Madness.
Hey, here we go. It's coming up soon. For those of you that don't watch a lot of college basketball, this NCAA tournament's coming on in just a couple of weeks. Selection Sunday is March 16th, where we figure out what 68 teams are going to be in. If you're sitting here watching Luka and watching LeBron and watching all of these NBA teams and talking about how basketball used to be good in the 90s, man, you got to turn into college basketball because it is intense, yes. Especially this time of year.
It's some of the best basketball you can watch. Very phenomenal. Kids are working hard to earn, a title championship or, even raise their draft stock to get into the NBA. But one team we want to look at first is going to be Duke. We got some notes here. It looks like Malik Brown has went down with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, so Malik Brown, big part of Duke's team. He doesn't have a lot of offensive prowess. He's averaging about 2.5 points, 4 rebounds a game. So he's not adding a lot on offense, but he's a skilled defender, and there's definitely a difference in the team with him off the court. He dislocated his shoulder, but he also just came back from a 4-game absence from a knee injury. So can he stay healthy? And we talked earlier, if somebody's injured, Duke is heavy on freshmen in that rotation.
Yeah, so a few days back, Duke played Illinois, and obviously that was kind of a statement game a little bit. When you win 110-67 over somebody in NCAA, that's pretty impressive. To win like that, and Illinois is not a small school. They usually have a pretty decent program. So for that to happen, that's pretty solid. And like you said, the heavy freshman class, they've always been coached well. You think with the players they have, that those freshmen are probably going to step up and contribute during the tournament. But definitely a team to watch for is going to be Duke. I think they probably will come in with a top 6 seed most likely.
Probably. You think about March Madness, you think about Duke. They're always there in the mix. Not a big Duke fan myself, but they're there every year.
And a lot of another team we're going to talk about, they busted a lot of brackets last year. People had Alabama coming in and actually doing some pretty good, going the distance really. I think, we did a challenge last year and I saw 4 or 5 people picked Alabama to win it, and that was not the case. But, they will be back in it this year. They got a pretty decent team. They started second in the AP votes this year, is that right?
Yeah, they started second in the AP poll. Really had great expectations for this year. They've shown some weakness at times. They get off to some slow starts, and they have some turnover issues. They lost to Missouri a couple of weeks ago, and They had 10 turnovers in the first half of that game. So that's definitely something they're going to have to clean up. Then you turn around and when they play well, they beat Kentucky just yesterday, 96-83. So,
which is a solid win.
Yeah, they can get hot. They can make a difference. So,
moving on to another one, we got Tennessee. Always seem to be another one that's in the top 4 every year. They seem to always get it in there, always be in there. I remember I put Tennessee in the Final Four last year in one of my brackets, and didn't really work out well for me, but who knows what the rebound is going to be this year. They had some solid players putting up some offensive stats for them. I think they're a little weaker on defense this year than they were previously.
A little bit, yeah. Tennessee is one of the teams I look to do well this year. They got Zakai Ziegler coming back from a knee injury. He was averaging 19 points a game, 8 assists, shooting 71% from the three-point range. So he's having a great year, and they just, Lanier went out and dropped 30 points over Texas A&M the other night. So I think they're starting to peak at the right time, and I think that horrible loss to Florida earlier in the season is going to be something that we forget about.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to Mizzou, that's also another one that they're pretty hot the first year, the first run of the year. They come out, won like 6 or 7 straight, I believe, and always come out and be competitive and just keep on going.
Yeah, I think if they can be consistent, just like we mentioned earlier, Missouri, they beat Alabama, and they had a phenomenal game. They went on a 12-0 run in the first 2 minutes. They dropped 59 points in the first half, and by the end of the game, they had 110 points that they dropped on Alabama. So they can get hot. They can play well. But you actually have an interesting connection to Mizzou.
Yes, I do. A lot of people know I do officiate high school basketball in the area, and one of the kids I had the pleasure of officiating plays basketball down at Mizzou. He's a freshman this year, so I don't know if he gets any playing time yet or not, if he redshirted or what happened, but it'd be interesting to follow his career as somebody that I got to officiate a game for. So kind of cool connection there. So kind of makes me want to go for Mizzou a little bit just because of that connection.
Yeah, for sure. And I think obviously sitting here in the middle of Illinois, we do have to talk about Illinois.
Unfortunately.
A team that made a lot of noise earlier in the season, looked like they were going places, but man, they are not doing well. They are beat up. You've got Merez Johnson Jr. with a broken wrist. You've got a virus sweeping across the team. Never know what the lineup's going to look like day to day. Players are traveling without the team because they don't want to get sick. They're a mess right now.
Yeah, they really are. And obviously after that embarrassing loss to Duke, you really don't know what to expect from them right now. But they do have around a month to get ready for this tournament. I think they will find a way to get in. I mean, they're not ranked right now, but they very well could win some games and get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have the rankings in front of me to know who's at the 25 to 20 spot, but I could feel like Illinois could win some games and get back into it right there.
Yeah, they definitely have time to rebound. So, it is March Madness. We talked about, you think about March Madness, you think about Duke. The last couple of years, you think about March Madness, you got to talk about Arizona.
You do. Yes. They got a phenomenal player in Caleb Love, and their defense is pretty phenomenal. Obviously they came in last year and didn't quite meet expectations that they had for themselves. Fell a little short, but I think it's a team that's going to be back this year.
Yeah, they had a really heartbreaking loss on Saturday. They lost 96-95 to BYU, but they've got a very aggressive defense, like you said, great player in Caleb Love. I think they could make a little bit of noise if they get in, but they are not the Arizona we've seen in years past.
No, they're not. They're not. And, of course, the last one we want to talk about is going to be Kansas, who's been consistently in the NCAA tournament for several years.
Yeah, so Kansas, they have never gotten lower than a 4 seed as long as Bill Self has been coach. And in the last 20 consecutive trips to the March Madness tournament, they've only been below a 4 seed 4 times.
That is very impressive.
It is. Right now they're projected to be a 6 seed. They're ranked 23rd in the country, but just the fact that they've made 20 consecutive trips to the tournament, probably 21 this year, that's an impressive start.
That is. I mean, you can't ever count them out. When somebody's producing every year at that level, you just know to plan on them being there because they're going to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah, so this is us putting some respect on Bill Self's name.
All right, next up we got the Garage Time Report. So this category is going to kind of talk about everything. whether it's something that happened in the world, some local stuff we want to talk about. Really, it's just whatever we feel like is pressing to talk about. And right now, we're going to talk about March and holidays, and well, everybody's favorite holidays coming up.
That's right. We got St. Patrick's Day here in just a few weeks. I'm not Irish. You're not Irish, but hey, I love St. Patrick's Day. It's one of my favorite holidays.
Nobody can really see why, except for the fact that we get to drink green beer.
Yeah, cheap, get some draft beer, they put some food coloring in it, you shit green for a couple of days. It's awesome.
Yes, exactly. You go out somewhere, you pay $1 for,
who knows what. It's probably warm.
Right. Been sitting outside for a little bit, but you go drink it, you have a good time, you move on, So we would like to know what your favorite drink is during St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, fill in, let us know. Interesting fact, and you can't really talk about St. Patrick's Day and not talk about alcohol. I looked up some stats. Last year, St. Patrick's Day alone, there was a 174% increase in alcohol sales on that day. And that's not taking in the days before, the days after, just that single day. Interesting fact, though, we were kind of talking about, we looked up some information. St. Patrick, who the holiday is named after, is actually not Irish born at all. He was a British slave, then he escaped, he did some missionary work in Ireland, but not Irish.
I know, being in Illinois, there's one thing we need to talk about that Chicago does for St. Patrick's Day. And one day I would like to make a trip up there to be able to see this. And, that's when they dye the river green. That's a pretty cool thing they do. And, I'd like to be there while I'm watching the green come down the river to me. I think that'd be a cool experience to see.
Yeah, I always thought that was really cool. I don't really know the tradition behind that, why Chicago started doing that or who started it or whatever. There's not a big Irish population in Chicago. Actually, you and I were talking, New Hampshire is the biggest Irish population by state, which I guess maybe they came overseas and just stayed where they were at. But I thought the Chicago Green River thing was great. I'd love to see that sometime.
Another thing in March is it's Girl Scout month, really. They got a day in there that they celebrate Girl Scouts. But right now, one of our favorite things is on sale from Girl Scouts. Any idea what I'm talking about?
Oh, cookies.
Now, you put a Thin Mint in the freezer, it's like the best thing ever. And I recently learned this like a couple years ago from my wife. I never used to do it. And she did it, and I was like just flabbergasted on how great this was.
Oh, yeah.
Changed my life.
Yeah. So basically what we're telling you is that in the next month, you need to buy some Thin Mints, freeze them, fill out a March Madness bracket, eat your frozen Thin Mints, and don't worry about your mower till it's time to fire it up and beat your neighbor. Best March of your life.
Yes, sir. Now, we're going to put a poll on our Facebook page of the best cookie that you think for Girl Scouts, and we're going to sit here and sample them all and probably give you our unbiased opinion that it's going to be Thin Mints. There's not a better cookie out there.
Right, we're just battling for second best at this point.
But we're gonna do it just because we need an excuse to eat cookies and put on some more weight. So, but if you pick anything other than Thin Mints, you might as well just pick Thin Mints.
I actually found that if you Google the Girl Scouts cookies, you can have a cookie finder where it will tell you where they are selling cookies close to where you're at right now if you share your location, which is dangerous. I never thought about door dashing Girl Scout cookies, but if I could run next door and hit them up and get 7 to 8 boxes for lunch, I'm in.
Yeah, that could be dangerous for a bank account.
Dangerous.
So, well, hey, on that, if you want to send us a few bucks to buy some cookies, go right on ahead. We'll take it. And the last thing we're going to talk about for, Garage Time Report is, it's like a little party down in New Orleans.
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.
So Mardi Gras, it means Fat Tuesday, which marks the start of Lent. But let's be honest. Fat Tuesday, Fat Wednesday, Fat Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we don't fast. We're fat every day.
We're down there. We're going to do it. I've watched a lot of videos on Mardi Gras over the last few years, and I'll be honest with you, it looks like a mosh pit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just a bunch of alcohol, you're walking down the street, beer hopping, just trying to find out what you like to drink, what you can do. And I think last night you sent me a text message, though, that Mardi Gras wasn't founded in New Orleans.
Yeah, so I knew we would be talking about this. And interesting, so my sister and her family live down in Mobile, Alabama. And they told me that Mardi Gras actually originated in Mobile, Alabama. Now, I think at that time Mobile might have been Louisiana, but it was still Mobile in 1702. And it wasn't until 16 years later that New Orleans said, hey, that looks kind of interesting, and they kind of stole it. You know, but I thought that was interesting because when you think about Mardi Gras, you think about New Orleans.
You really do. I mean, it's been down there for so long, and it's kind of been a staple in the community of New Orleans that they've always had. Mardi Gras. When you told me that, I had to Google it because I'm like, there's no way. Like, I've never heard of it being anywhere else. And I found out the same thing. Like 1702, it was a French thing, and in Mobile, Alabama. So, kind of an interesting fact there.
Yeah, and it's changed quite a bit. I guess when it first came on in Mobile, it was kind of a Catholic carnival-based celebration. A lot of the faces, the masks, the colors, and then when New Orleans took it over, eventually we morphed into this do questionable things for beads kind of celebration we see now. So
definitely questionable. Well, that summed it up for our grad time report. We're going to move on to this fourth and final category, and when we were talking about setting up our podcast, we really struggled on this fourth category. We really wanted there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of stupid shit or say stupid shit, and we want to be able to talk about that, but maybe also not be so derogative about it. So the name of this category is going to be, what were they thinking?
And let's be honest, there's no shortage of dumbasses out there, right? You're looking at two of them making a podcast right in front of you. But the point is, I'm not saying I'm not a dumbass. We're just reaching out and talking about somebody every week about what the hell were they thinking. And this one, when we were kind of getting ideas of what we wanted to do, this one really stuck very forward with us, and kind of right away, this is what we were going to talk about. But, experts are now saying that you need to ask your baby's permission before you change their diaper.
Now, I don't know how many of you have had kids or ever had kids, but most babies can't talk. Right. So I don't know how you're supposed to do this.
Yeah, I think it came from a good place where they were like, we need to stop child sexual abuse and exploitation, and we need to foster a family household where we gain consent. And I think that that's a good thought, but not for an infant. And they can't grant permission, they can't give permission, they can't give consent. So I think the message gets lost to, if I ask my baby consent to change their diaper and they don't answer me, now I'm assuming consent.
Right.
And that's not something you want to teach either. Or, like you were saying with your 3-year-old.
Yeah, and so if the baby doesn't respond and I don't change the diaper, I'm just going to leave a baby sitting in its own filth until it says yes. Is that what we're going by here?
Or what if your child, your 2-year-old, your 3-year-old tells you no, and then you change their diaper anyway?
I mean,
then you're asking for consent and telling them it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if my kid comes up to me and says he needs a diaper change, and he says no quite a bit, it's still getting changed. Whether it's his mom or other do it, it's still getting changed. I mean, we're not just going to let our kid run around with a bad diaper. You're just not going to do it.
And I listened to the story, I read the article, and they recommend, they recognize that a baby can't give consent. Can I change your diaper? They can't give consent.
They're just going to look back at you.
Right. They may even shit a little bit more. But they recommend, they recommend.
No, I mean, it's true, though.
They recommend checking the baby's aura to gain consent. Does the baby seem like the baby's comfortable for you to change their diaper? I'm going to tell you one thing. There's one aura that I noticed when a baby needed a diaper change, and I could smell it.
Yeah, so that's definitely the aura you're going by. If you smell that, you probably should just change it. Not worry about the consent so much. I have a feeling that this is kind of, going towards like daycares and stuff like that, not so much as a family member, but, just the way I think, But if you drop your kid off to be watched by anybody, that's consent to change my kid's diaper while you're watching them. I would think that's a pretty standard common practice, but obviously experts believe that we are wrong, but that's just kind of how I think.
I think if you have a kid that's in diapers or pull-ups and you know that they're likely going to need that changed at some point in time, if you're leaving them with somebody that you question whether or not that's a safe thing for that person to do, then maybe they shouldn't be watching the kid.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So.
But that's really all we got for what were they thinking this week. There was one topic, but it was pretty wild topic, I guess. You know, when Kyle sent it to me, I was just like, "Hey, no way! Like, how do you do this?" You know, and it's been kind of a fun topic to research a little bit and talk to each other about, and obviously put our opinions out in front of you guys. So, with that being said, we're going to head into our closing statement, and Kyle is going to give you a rundown of a way to win $20.
Yeah, so we're trying to get this thing up and going off the ground. We are available on TikTok. We are on Facebook. We obviously have this podcast going right now. And the more likes, the more comments, the more interactions that you guys have, the more we show up. So
we have our wife watching us from the background here, and something's going on. We can't stop laughing. Apologize for that.
Basically, if you get onto this podcast, if you get onto Facebook, if you get onto TikTok, go somewhere where we are at, comment, like, share a video that we've made. We'll enter you into a drawing to win $20. This contest will start on Wednesday when this episode drops, and it'll run for 1 week.
Yep.
We will announce the winner during our third episode, and they'll get $20.
And the reason being the third episode is the second one will have already been filmed before the drawing ends. So that's why it has to be the third episode. We're not going to do a live episode to do the drawing. It'll be the following week. So anyway, moving on to the March Madness challenge that we're going to do. So we're going to put a dollar amount out there for how much it costs to submit a bracket. And 50% of that will go into a pot for the winners, maybe for a second, third. We haven't got that far yet. And then the other 50% is going to go toward the Garage Time podcast so that we can update some equipment and buy some cool stuff we're going to buy to make this podcast easier for us and, help support us and get this thing going off the ground as well on that. But like I said, got two very smart, intelligent men making brackets here. So good luck if you're gonna do that, and we're gonna do our best to win. We will put our brackets on Facebook before, so you can see them now. So we don't want you to think that we're just kind of making a bracket up as we go. It will be on Facebook. You'll be able to look at it, and I prefer that you don't copy mine because I don't want to tie with anybody. But you're more than welcome to, I guess. I can't prevent you from doing that.
So there's basically, for those of you, again, that don't really follow March Madness, it's very simple. It's a 68-team bracket. You fill this out. It's 1 versus 1 all the way up until a champion. You lose a game, you're eliminated until we have one team standing. There's a lot of upsets every year, crazy upsets. Very, very rarely does anybody have a bracket that isn't busted in some way. There's a lot of ways that you can pick your team. You can pick them based off of sports knowledge. You can pick them off of the colors of their uniforms. You can pick them off their mascot. You can pick them just throwing darts at a dartboard. It doesn't matter how you do it. But if you've never done one of these, I suggest doing it. It's a lot of fun. It gives you something to do during the month of March when it's cold and nothing else is going on. You can compete with your friends. You can compete with us. It's a great thing to do, and we'll post all of that information on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah, now Selection Sunday for March Madness is the 16th of March?
Yeah.
Something like that. So they'll put all the picks out there. They'll put out the bracket, and you'll be able to see it online probably that evening. It comes out pretty quick afterwards. You can get a printable bracket, or you can fill one out online and send it over to us. Write one out, take a picture on your phone, send it on through the Messenger app, whatever you got to do to get it over to us. We'll work with you on that. But the playing games start the 18th, but I'll tell you what, I never picked the first 4, so you can have those games. They're not going to matter one way or the other, really. And now if you pick a team in the first 4 playing games that maybe goes all the way, well, you're going to be in trouble. But, talking about some upsets, a few years ago, was it Loyola? That came back,
yeah.
Made it all the way into the Elite 8 as like a 16 seed, and that was pretty cool to watch. I doubt anything like that will happen again for a while, but it is March Madness. It's been crazy. They call it Madness for a reason.
Yeah. And there's games almost every night. So, like I said, it always gives you something to do, something to talk about with your coworkers. Freeze your Thin Mints, get them out of your freezer, drink a green beer, and fill out your bracket.
Yes, sir. And now, this is our first episode. It'll be dropping on Wednesday. There'll be new episodes dropping every Wednesday after that.
Stay tuned on our TikTok and Facebook. We're always trying to find ways to interact with you.